We've got some drama on the streets today because Russell Wilson was on the Pat McAfee show and he indirectly threw some shade at Sean Payton. So I want to share with you guys what was said and then we'll break it down together. But here's what Russ said. I've been fortunate to play for two special coaches in terms of men and how they process the game. Obviously, Coach Pete Carroll and obviously Coach Mike Tomlin are really unique individuals in how they lead and motivate. I think they are culture builders. This seems intentional that he said, I've played for two coaches. Did not mention Sean Payton, the Super Bowl winning coach he was with just a year ago. Yeah, left that guy off the record. By the way, the ultimate victim in all this is not really Sean Payton. It's probably Nathaniel Hackett because everyone saw this and thought, ooh, what a quick dagger to Sean Payton. No one even considered that he skipped over Hackett. It's kind of like the meme from We're the Millers of like, you're making $50,000, you're making $15,000, you guys are getting paid. Like Nathaniel Hackett's like, I'm a part of this conversation even. So I feel like this is intentional by Russ to exclude Payton from it. And to be honest with you, I don't blame him. I don't think these two guys got along from day one. Look at the messaging that Russ got from Sean Payton. Told him, fucking stop kissing all the babies. You're not running for public office. And then there was a team meeting that happened where Sean Payton might have gone, I wouldn't say overboard, but he definitely didn't hold back in illustrating his thoughts on the team he was acquiring, saying, quote, well, from a Seth Wickersham article out of ESPN, he showed the team a video of a 2022 Ford Bronco driving off a cliff, letting players know last year is over. Now, you might look at that and just think, oh, there's some symbolism here of Ford Bronco, the Broncos. Oh, I see what he did there. If I'm Russell Wilson, I don't know if I interpret it that way since he drove a Ford Bronco. So Russ might be sitting in this room listening to Peyton talk about how the past is the past and here's a Ford Bronco going off the cliff. And he might be looking at that video going, is that my car? Oh, I think he's talking about me right now. And everyone's like, no, it's just referencing the car because the Bronco. Yeah, but that's my car. I don't blame Russ for maybe perceiving that as, I think he's talking about, I'm the guy that drove us off a cliff, and that's done. So I'm not like blown away that Russ excluded Sean Payton. I don't think these two guys got along particularly well. There was all those incidents on the sideline of Peyton screaming at Russell Wilson at the Lions game on the road. Peyton was very verbal and very outspoken about his frustration regarding the sacks taken. And there were times where he kind of threw players under the bus a little bit when it came to post-game press conferences and things like that. So, yeah, I'm not shocked at all that when asked about his coaches, Russell Wilson does not go out of his way to go, yeah, the guy that dumped me after one season, he's one of my favorite coaches. But ultimately, if you wonder who gets the last laugh here, it has to be Sean Payton, right? Sean Payton bet on himself. Sean Payton went to the Broncos ownership and said, listen, I want you guys to make, in some ways, the biggest financial, not mistake, but acceptance of a mistake, and release Russell Wilson, pay him $33 million to play on another team, and we will take on an $85 million dead cap hit, and I can make this team better with all of those handcuffs and restrictions because Russell Wilson is not here. That's a big ballsy bet to make, is it not? You go to your boss, who just kind of recently got hired by, and like, what do you think about $33 million for someone on the Steelers? Yeah, you'd be paying him, and we can't spend in free agency a whole lot, and we probably have to move on from some players like Justin Simmons and Jerry Jeudy because of the $85 million dead cap hit. And then he's going to turn out a 10-win season with a rookie quarterback. And oh, by the way, it's the last quarterback selected in round one. So not even your first, second, or third pick of the litter. That's a big gamble. And kudos to Peyton, because plenty of times along the path, people doubted him. I mean, I was at times fearful and curious, to put it lightly, but he ultimately gets the last laugh. He took a roster that people thought would be the worst team in football. They're picking first or second or third overall, won 10 games with a rookie quarterback, and they made the playoffs in year one with Bo Nix and year two overall with Sean Payton. That is the definition of betting on yourself and winning. Because if Bo Nix was a failure, it was a bust, and it looked like Paxton Lynch all over again or something like that, I don't know if Sean Payton is with the Broncos today, if that's the case. They probably go, oh my God, we trusted you. You told us this vision, and this team is worse now, and we paid Russell Wilson $33 million to get on out of here. That's probably grounds for termination. So big shout out to Peyton for betting on himself, like I said, and it paying off. Before we talk about the rest of today's episode, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I love about Game Time is they offer the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So if you want to go to an Avs game or a Nuggets game or any other sporting event in your area, download Game Time today and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So kind of to wrap up the whole conversation regarding this trio right here, Bo Nix versus Russell Wilson, comparing the numbers side by side in 2024. I mean, Nix dwarfs Russ in a lot of ways. Wilson did miss some games to open up the season. Fields started the first 6 games of the season, but let's be honest, even if Russ played all 17 games, I don't think he would have come out with a better season than Bo Nix did. And it's, I wouldn't say remarkable, because Russ, especially towards the end there, at the end of the season, was not playing very well. So there's fair reason to believe that Russ over 17 games would not have been better than Nix. But now I kind of wonder, looking at Russ's career, 2024 in Pittsburgh, 2 seasons before that in Denver, 2021 last season in Seattle. You can see the decline, right? Like 25 touchdowns down to 16. Then it's better with Peyton, which you can almost credit. Like, if you're Russ, sure, on one hand, you're kind of salty with Sean Payton. That's your ex. That's the guy who went to front office and said, can we please release him? Like, he's probably the ultimate boogeyman if you're Russ, looking at why was I released from the Broncos after 2 seasons. But you can also say thank you, Shawn, because if Hackett was my coach for another season, I probably am out of the NFL much sooner than I am right now. If I had another 16 touchdown campaign compared to the numbers he put up in year 1 with Peyton, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, I'm not sure if any team would have given him a shot in 2024. So do with that what you will. But as for what's next, I'm not really sure. I was trying to come up with a cool Petey's hot take. Does he go back to Pittsburgh? Like, on one hand, if you're the Steelers, are you going to find a better option? Not in free agency. Maybe you go out and sign Sam Darnold. I'm not convinced the Vikings aren't going to bring him back. You're going to find someone in the draft. It's not a very good quarterback draft class. You're picking 21st. Unlikely. I mean, you could get lucky. Like, you could find Dak in round 4. You could find Russ in round 4 too, right? But those happen once every 5, 6, 7 years. It's not a great bet to make. Didn't work out, and they tried that route, like Mason Rudolph, for example. So if they don't find anything better, then I guess they turn back to Russ. But also, Russ really cost him down the stretch. Like, I don't think he was the ultimate culprit for them ending the year on, if you include the postseason, a 5-game losing streak. They were 10-3. They lost 4 in a row, end of the year 10-7, and then lost in the playoffs. Not very inspiring stuff right there to the locker room and the fan base to bring that back. But I don't really have a better idea. Before we get on out of here, just a couple of quick NFL news items I just wanted to go over with you guys here. Not necessarily pertaining too much to Denver, but this part is. So we had Ian Rapoport on KOA talking about Darren Rizzi, saying, my understanding, when Shawn moved on from his former special teams coach, he wanted Rizzi. We'll see if he gets him. There's certainly a lot of smoke from both sides. I'm 90% confident that when you hire a special teams coordinator, or any coordinator, you have to comply with the Rooney Rule. So the Broncos can't just go out and hire Darren Rizzi tomorrow, even if they wanted to, because they have to interview 2 minority candidates. I'm pretty confident that rule applies to special teams coordinators. So I don't think they can just outwardly go sign or hire Rizzi. But I mean, the 49ers, they accidentally did this when the season ended. They announced a promotion, and the NFL is like, you have to. Yeah, that's what I'm like 100% sure. The Niners got somewhat in trouble for this because they announced a promotion. The NFL is like, you're not Rooney Rule compliant. So then they interviewed Iowa State's offensive coordinator, I think it was, and it was just kind of making a mockery of the rule itself. So I expect Rizzi to be the special teams coordinator. May not be tomorrow. They got to go through the process still. Some other news pertaining to the AFC West. The Raiders got the Buccaneers assistant GM, John Spytek, as the new general manager. I love that you have Tom Brady and Spytek in Vegas. It's just all of the nicknames coming together. Spygate, Brady, Spytek now. Honestly, though, this is probably a good hire for the Raiders. The Buccaneers have had some really nice draft picks. If you look at the core roster they have there in Tampa, outside of Baker and then Brady, they built all that through the draft. You look at the defense, all those players drafted. Antoine Winfield, Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Levante David. On the offensive line, Tristan Wirfs, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So there were some really good picks made by the Bucs. So this is a good hire for the Raiders. Speaking of hirings and firings too, we got Aaron Glenn going from the Lions to the Jets. I'm going to fade the Lions in 2025. Moving on or losing both your OC and your DC, I feel like their win total is going to be pretty high because of what they accomplished this year. I'm going to go below that there. And then this is very interesting. We had the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, Liam Coen, pass on the Jags head coaching gig. Now, right before we started filming, the Jags went out and fired their GM, Trent Baalke. If you recall, they fired Doug Peterson back on Black Monday, and in the end of the year Zoom press conference with the media members, GM Trent Baalke was on it, and everyone's like, so we're going to stick with him as well? And owner Shad Khan was like, yes, I will be sticking with Trent. And then someone asked, what happens if a head coach says, can we move on from Baalke? And Shad Khan, in front of Baalke, was like, then I guess I'd fire Trent Baalke. That was pretty awkward. So ultimately, Shad Khan cost himself his preferred head coaching candidate in Liam Coen because he dragged his feet on firing a completely inept GM in Trent Baalke. And now he doesn't have the GM I guess he kind of wanted, / just opted not to fire. And he also doesn't have his number 1 or number 2 head coaching candidate, all because he could not make a decision and just have some leadership skills internally. So if you see a Jags fan, give him a hug, because there's dysfunctional and then there's the Jags. Before we sign off, shout out your city for me in the chat. We do this every so often, but I always enjoy seeing where everyone tunes in from. Plus, it's kind of a fun way for me to know who watches all the way to the end of the video. So get in the chat down below and shout out your city. Make sure to like the video if you haven't already and subscribe. It does help grow the channel and go a long way. Really appreciate everyone that watches our content, and I'll see everyone tomorrow.